Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine.
When President Zelensky, right now he's on a tour around different places in Europe, plane was escorted by F-16s, and the word is that they were piloted by Ukrainians. So we know the Ukrainians can fly these things. They're still waiting to get them here in Ukraine.
Little Joe Lindsley.
Joe Lindsley is quickly becoming an American treasure in broadcasting.
Welcome to Ukraine Bank.
Fingers crossed. We will connect now with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine. And Joe, yesterday when we were having some connection problems, I really wanted to ask you about the news that Putin has decided to act changing defense ministers for the first time in more than a decade, and also allowing a number of corruption arrests among some top ministry officials. What do you make of that?
Well, Bob, good afternoon from Lviv. I'm glad we can speak today so far. I've tricked my computer to making it look like it's in a different country. So maybe that helps us keep connected here. Yeah, got to try everything we can. Regarding the shakeup that was happening in the Kremlin, which several weeks ago was first announced, from my position, I'm always skeptical. There's no free press in Russia. All free Russian media is in exile. There's an American Wall Street Journal reporter still in jail. So it's really hard to know, what is propaganda optics? What is actually a real change in policy? Maybe it could be anything. I mean, Putin's, he's the czar, right? So maybe somebody looked at him the wrong way, or maybe it's the fact that, Ukraine is still holding on in this war that was supposed to last 3 days. So we could speculate a lot about it. I mean, we have seen some other changes, not just the personnel changes, but changes in the battlefield situation. I mean, those personnel changes were kind of coincident with the new incursion into Kharkiv region, which obviously must have been something the Russians were planning for some time. But all that's happening at once, and it could also, Putin's trying to send signals of strength. And for example, I mean, this can be done in sometimes in sneaky ways. Today, the Daily Telegraph out of London, a newspaper I usually like, they have a great podcast about Ukraine called The Latest. They record it every single day from London and sometimes from Ukraine. But today at the Daily Telegraph, a major headline said that these words: "Ukraine knows it is finished." And then, so I was very curious. Who is the person that wrote this story that knows definitively that Ukraine knows that it's finished? And the author, she's a regular writer for the Telegraph. She doesn't spend time in Ukraine. You and I speak about Ukraine every single day. We could say we have a PhD or at least a master's in this, speaking about this every single day. Mm-hmm. It was news to me that Ukraine knows it's finished. And so I did some research on the writer in the Telegraph, and she's half Russian. And so, even though sometimes she writes things sympathetic to Ukraine, I mean, the Russian propaganda can be very intelligent. And, sometimes it can even be people who say they support Ukraine, but in the key moments, in the moments when, there's a turning point and decisions are being made, you see some of these commentators sort of attacking Ukraine. And I think that's what I saw in the Telegraph today, because I don't see a country around me that knows that it's finished. In fact, I mean, it's extremely difficult, but there are good indicators. And we do see some people saying, hey, time could be running out, so let's change things. For example, President Macron of France, he's maybe we see a transformation happening. He was at a press conference with the German chancellor, Chancellor Scholz, who's been pretty reluctant. Germany has some very powerful weapons, and Scholz has been reluctant to send those. Macron was standing next to Chancellor Scholz, and he was holding a map showing how Kharkiv city and region are being attacked from just across the border by the Russians. And he was saying it's ridiculous that Ukrainians they can't use any Western weapons, not only American, but other Western weapons, to hit anything inside Russia. And Macron said, it's time now. Ukraine needs to be able to hit back. He said, not deep into Russia, but to hit never civilian targets, simply the places from which Russia, the missile launch points from which Russia is attacking Kharkiv city and other places like that near the front line. So Macron he was holding the map and was very passionate about this. So we do perhaps see some growing momentum on that score. And then another piece of an ongoing story that doesn't get covered, but Ukraine's continued success in the Black Sea. And as of last week, 1,600 ships in 9 months, as of last week, 1,600 ships have exported 45 million tons of cargo through the Black Sea. And this is more cargo than was exported from 2022 to 2023, when there was that so-called deal between the United Nations and Russia and Turkey. Russia said, oh, we'll give Ukraine a safe passage to the Black Sea. Well, Ukrainians are exporting more now by fighting back, by sinking these Russian ships, by using their drones. And every month, the numbers are getting better. In April, 5.2 million tons of grain were exported through the Black Sea, which is 1 million more tons than when that Black Sea deal was in effect with Russia. So it's incredible even to think that even in the war, you have ships from all countries all over the world are able to get through the Black Sea, even as Russia still continues to try to hit, Ukrainian ports. And, when I talk with, for example, some Polish experts, there's been a lot of frustration among farmers in Europe about, Ukrainian grain and produce once again, being distributed around the world. And one frustration, I think, Ukrainian grain and produce is considered to be of very high quality. A lot of it's not, the Ukrainians don't farm with chemicals in the way that many in Europe and the U.S. do. And so it's a threat to farmers in other countries. And that's one reason why we do see some of these protests. But I can attest to that in a way. I was just trying the other day Ukrainian strawberries. And I lived in Louisiana for a while. They praised Louisiana strawberries, but the strawberries here are absolutely sort of unreal. And I had strawberries with a homemade pasta. It was an unusual combination, but absolutely fantastic. So Ukraine is still in the war, sending all this produce all over the world. And on the darker side, there still is this very strange situation with the fighter jets. Sweden, sort of the same view as Macron, is saying Ukraine needs to be able to do it, hit Russian bases on Russian soil. And Sweden was going to send its Gripen fighter jets to Ukraine. They were just going to do it and get it done after 2 years of Ukraine waiting for F-16s. But now Western partners, including the U.S., are encouraging Sweden not to send those Gripen fighter jets. They're saying it's better to focus on the F-16 program. But the concern here in Ukraine is this F-16 program ever going to happen? And Ukrainians are saying, why can't we just have these Gripen fighter jets now? Because there is still a deep concern that the F-16s, that the West does not want them here while there is a hot war. That said, when President Zelensky, right now he's on a tour around different places in Europe, when he was in Belgium, his plane was escorted by F-16s, and the word is that they were piloted by Ukrainians. So we know the Ukrainians can fly these things. They're still waiting to get them here in Ukraine.
Tomorrow, Joseph, I want to ask you about a number of our listeners texting basically the same question, concerned that if U.S. weapons are used to attack Russia, it would be sort of a default war between the U.S. and Russia. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. And also, I'd like you to send us some strawberries immediately. That sounds pretty good. More tomorrow. Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you from Sweden, where my computer is, or from Ukraine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hi to the Russians. It's news time next.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Well, which side are you on? На чьей ты стороне? Come on now. Oh, which side are you on? На чьей ты стороне?